Hello, everybody. My name is Mark Shredder, and I'm here today to tell you about a project that we're running at the Ballarat Trust that you may well have heard about. It's a project designed to help Sanghas set up local and more organised, explicit and effective cultures of care and support. And it's called the Local Care Network Project. In a few minutes, I'll also be speaking with Paramashanti, a senior order member who is based in Poland, who has, as I discovered through email correspondence, a keen interest in care in the order. But before we get into a conversation with Paramashanti, I just want to tell you a bit about the Ballarat Trust Local Care Network project. So the first thing to say is the project was initially set up by the Ballarat Trust in light of the ageing demographic of the order and the anticipated increase in care and support needs of individual order members. However, as we all know and witness, care and support needs related to physical and/or mental health can arise at any age. So the Local Care Network project is not actually age-specific. It's universal, if you like. And the Local Care Network project has been trialled in a few UK centres. And though it has evolved, there are three essentials to it. Firstly, getting people to talk and think about care and support in their local Sangha and how that could work as a Sangha participation, as part of being a Sangha member. Talking can be very stimulating, generating ideas and specific actions. And as we know, actions create culture. So we're trying to create culture, a more explicit culture of care. Secondly, as part of a local care network, a database is created of people offering their time, energy, skills, expertise to help those in need, or indeed those who care for somebody in need. A specific example here could be help from somebody who knows how to access local government support services, such as help with meeting bills and accommodation costs, medical support, home modifications, and so on. The third essential of a local care network is coordination. At the heart of a local care network are a group of order members. 3 is probably optimal, we've found, who are well connected and keep plugged into care needs in their local sanghas. For example, coordinating or keeping their ears to the ground in chapters and so on. I'll also add that local care networks, and this is in the UK for now, can have access to a holistic care assessment tool that provides a very thorough and clear report on an individual's specific care needs. But this, we are finding, is only necessary in a few cases. And this care assessment tool can be adapted for use anywhere in the world, but we work on that. So knowledge and expertise held in a local care network can save enormous amounts of time that would otherwise, for example, be spent trying to find out what help is available from local government, and that might be financial, medical, housing, support, and so on, and how to access this help. But finding out what's available is one thing, accessing it and knowing how to access it effectively and efficiently is another. So local care networks can help that, finding out and accessing. And I speak here not just from personal experience, but also from the experience of an order member who had cared for a fellow order member in his Sangha. And he said how much time and energy it would have saved him if he had information of local government services that a local care network can provide. Now, of course, local government services vary hugely, not only in different regions of the UK, but also in countries across the world. But this is where networks and the title local care networks really comes in. The more local sanghas that have a local care network set up, the more networks there are that can collaborate nationally and internationally, exchanging information, expertise, and experience to help develop care cultures in a local sangha. And I do envisage a global network of information, of information flow and support between local care networks, making care in local sanghas more effective and efficient. Now, the current system of care in local sanghas relies heavily, I think, on Kalyana Mitra. And there are many examples in sanghas across the world where this works really well, really well. So you might ask, do we really need anything more? Why have something like a local care network when we have Kalyana Mitra flowing so well in many sanghas? Well, I think a system based upon Kalyana Mitra works well when the numbers of people needing care in a sangha are relatively low. But when numbers increase, which is likely to happen as people age in a sangha, a system based upon Kalyana Mitra can get overloaded. And something like a local care network has a much greater capacity as it involves the whole sangha, the whole sangha. Now, if you want to know more about setting up a local care network in your sangha, wherever you are in the world, and you'd like to be part of a global network of local care networks, please do get in contact. My email address can be found on the abhiratnatrust.org website, but it's mahashraddha@abhiratnatrust.org. And I'll try and leave it in the chat box at some point. And I really look forward to hearing from you. It's a project which I'm quite passionate about, and it really is relevant to the 3, if not 4 sites. Now, as I said earlier, I'll be speaking with Paramashanti, who who I've really made a connection with, actually, out of the blue, based upon our mutual passion, really, for care in the order. So I'd just like to welcome Paramashanti. Hello from Poland.
Hello. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Yes, it's still afternoon in Poland, isn't it? So, Paramashanti, I am really delighted that we've now got this connection. I knew you years ago when you were in Cambridge, not as a friend, but as somebody. Oh yeah, I know that face. So I'm really glad that we're picking things up again on the basis of something which we really care about, which is care. So I thought the first thing is to say, for you to say, is do you want to say a bit about yourself, to introduce yourself to people who are listening?
Yeah, very brief. As just been mentioned, I live in Poland. I live in Krakow. I've been here about 6 years. And for a few years previous to that, I used to visit maybe 3 times a year to help with retreats and spend time with the Sangha. Because I think on my first visit, I was so impressed with the Sangha, a very positive Sangha. I just thought, oh, well, it'd be a great place to be connected with. And so when the time came, I think in end of 2016, when I could move, I just packed up and moved. It wasn't a big decision, actually. So I'll start sort of at the beginning, very briefly. I made contact with the London Buddhist Centre around about the mid-1980s. I lived outside London, and it was such a long trip. I used to go 3 times a week. I decided to move there, so I just moved to the LBC, and I helped out at the centre, and I was made Mitra in 1985, and I was ordained in 1988.
By Bhante?
By Bhante. Mine was the last group, Paramartha, Ratnagosha, Vimla Bandhu, who were the last groups to be ordained by Bhante, which I was really happy to be. Before I was ordained, I worked for Windhorse Trading, had a small warehouse in London, and we moved to Cambridge. And I worked for Windhorse in various capacities for about 14 years in total, doing various jobs. And I had a break. I went to the United States in the early 1990s. I was sent to there, Ariloka, for 3.5 years, and I came back. I went to Nottingham for a year, and then I went back to Cambridge. And then I spent about 6 months later, when I left Windhorst, 6 months in Hungary, working on a project with the gypsies there, language project. And then soon after that, I visited Krakow, and I thought, well, that's the way forward. So here I am. And I really enjoy living in Krakow.
Yeah,
I really enjoy it. Yeah. So
thank you. Yeah, I mean that to me, you've given your life as soon as you've given your life to the movement and the order pretty much after you got involved.
Yeah.
And certainly after ordination. So
yeah.
I think you're in a really, really good place to speak about care in the order, because you've got a kind of long-term perspective of the order and seen its twists and turns and development.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
That just confirms why I want this conversation.
Yeah, because I mean, from my point, what I see some, a lot of positives and some not so positive. I mean, that's happens with movements.
Yeah. So why are you interested in care in the order?
I can't quite recall because, as you said, I don't know you very well. I know of you. We've had some contact previous to that, and I know, and I think I must say, I think you've got a very appropriate name. No, I do feel that when you talk. I just think it's Mahashraddha. It's actually Mahashraddha. I just want to say that.
Thank you. Yeah.
But when over the recent past, there's been lots of talk about. I mean, years ago, there was talk about trying to set up some housing for older members. There were different proposals, but nothing happened, which is, I won't say not unusual with this true partner, but nothing happened. And then Tara Ducking started the Bioratna Trust, which is a wonderful thing to do. But now I think there's so many demands, because the order is aging, and there's going to be a lot more demands in lots of areas. It's quite obvious. So when you sent your email, like a general email, I read it. I thought I just responded to it. I wanted to talk. I had some ideas, some bit crazy ideas. We work through. We sift through the chaff. You know what I mean? So some very crazy ideas about building and all that. But one thing that struck me talking to you is that we're on the same wavelength. We sort of understand. Well, you understand more than I do. I'm not going to claim that, of what is needed and how to go about it. And although I am one of the older order members, I didn't do it. I didn't feel it was for me. I'm not that concerned. I must say I'm not concerned about. I don't feel that. But I think with you or somebody doing things like that, I think getting involved in for just having communication is two things: a sign of interest and a sign of support. I think it's quite important that people spearheading and trying to establish things need that contact, and they need to appreciate most of the order is behind it. Because otherwise it's very, very difficult. I mean, that's all I can say about it.
I think that's a really important. Sorry to butt in, but
okay.
I think that's a really important point. When I had a near fatal stroke in 2012, and I just felt so vulnerable. All of my being felt so vulnerable. But I got so much support from the order. It made a huge difference. And I think in local sanghas, if we could actually build up that kind of vibe, if you like, that kind of culture in which people feel, no matter what kind of state they're in, they feel connected or supported.
Well, actually, Tom, in a way, it comes from the other side for us, doesn't it? As you say, use the word culture. I think a culture of not just thinking and sitting on the cushion about spiritual practice is actually action. I think to me, the need, I'm going to say because I'm on, your thing, I think there needs to be a bit more action with the two, a bit more virya.
Yeah.
Because I think I'm going to say it.
Go on.
In my experience, I think we've got into this a habit of sort of talking about things. That's what I feel. Not that we shouldn't talk about things, but sometimes we need to have a bit more action. And some situations aren't that complicated. The need is there, and people hopefully will respond. Can I say something about something you meant about culture?
Yes.
But again, I've been thinking about this a bit, and I think it's like any other spiritual practice, like talk about gratitude. It's quite difficult to build these things up, but it needs to be in a way embedded in our practice. And I was thinking about this. I think, well, we've got to this stage, and what we're talking about, it's not just order members, it's mitras, and mitras have asked for ordination. But if these sort of considerations are introduced and aren't like issues, it's much more difficult. And I think, I mean, it's probably the same when you were a mitra, there were 4 criteria for mitras, weren't there? Not shopping around, contact. And for some reason, which I don't understand, I don't want to go into it, they were dropped. There was one very important one that connects with what we're talking about. Helping out at the center. And people were forced to do that, but encourage mitras to understand the altruistic dimension of going for refuge. It's not just about what we can take, which in the beginning is what we want, but it has to be introduced somewhere. And this criteria about helping out the center, I think, was helpful because it's other regarding. And if that's not introduced, I think early on to mitras, and people say, oh, well, it's optional. And what does it mean if it's optional? It means I don't have to do it. I mean, that's the way we work. It's optional. I don't have to do it then, do I? Obviously, we can't force it. It's not, we can't insist. But I think it needs to be introduced by the order members who know the mitra. Say, in a way, this is what is expected.
And sorry, go on.
No, it's part of the practice, and it's a training. It's a training. It's like working at Windhorse Trading. Even though sometimes I really didn't like it, it was actually a training. And who said you got to like it? You know what I mean?
But I think this is one point I made in the introduction in terms of local care networks. If the whole Sangha starts to talk about and think about care, it becomes part of the fabric of that culture. And
that's right.
And I do think, I've been thinking a lot about care. It's not very sexy in some ways, but there is that's missing the point. There's depth, there's profound profundity in care in terms of the 4 sites.
Well, exactly. We talked about it. I mean, it's part of the spiritual practice. As we said, with the foresight, we talked about the first precept. It has to be seen in action. It's the first Paramashanti dana. I mean, people give money, which probably for most people is the easiest thing to give. You just go online and you've done it. It's like saying happy birthday. You don't have to go to the shop and buy a particular card and go to the pub. You just do it. And that's sort of, the world we live in. But I think this thing about developing a culture of care, which includes action, needs to be. I just want to mention somebody. Actually, I was impressed. I did write to her. Paramashanti, she's joined the trust. Paramashanti. I learned that she's retired from work, and she wanted something to do, and she joined the trust.
She did the Bharat Trust,
I think, and I wrote to her, and I really rejoiced in it. I think wonderful thing to do because you can retire and you can just sit in your rocking chair and you can have quite an easy time. But she decided, no, I mean, I was really struck
Yeah.
by it actually.
Yeah.
I think she's a great example
Mm.
of
Mm.
this
Mm.
well, giving.
Mm. Yeah.
It's about giving. It's like
Yeah.
others, seeing others.
Yeah. Yeah. And I must say she's very effective. It's great to have on board. Can so the kind of last areas local. We've discussed this. Local is best, and do you think so? You know, it's a local care network in terms of helping sangers to build things locally.
We've had a few discussions about this, and I didn't quite
Yes, we have.
understand. Cause I had other idea, and I've been um, reflecting on it, and I think
Mm.
you're absolutely 100% right.
Mm.
I mean, it has to be local,
Yeah.
but there's a few things
Mm.
I'll say
Mm.
is that the centre, the chairman, particularly the mixture conveners, have to be interested in it.
Yeah, yeah,
They have to promote it.
yeah,
You know, what I wouldn't like to see, you just give a talk and it's another talk. It'd be like, oh, great talk, Mark Shrapper. Thank you for
yeah,
coming.
yeah,
Bum, bum, bum. Here's
yeah,
the cash. Off you go.
yeah.
That doesn't get us anywhere. And
Mm.
I think perhaps, I don't know, the chairs meeting,
Mm.
it needs to be promoted
Mm.
quite strongly because
Yeah,
it's a great need. It's going to be a greater need. And actually, it's part of our practice.
yeah,
It's part of our practice.
yeah.
So I thought, well, without the chairs or
Mm.
Mishrabima's support, it's
Mm.
not going to go very far.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. It's like, that's what I think. The other thing you probably looked at is, although we talk about what needs to be done, there needs to be somewhere locally um, to question. You would do a questionnaire for all these older order members and ask what they want,
Mm.
because
Mm.
you may think of great ideas,
Yeah,
but if
yeah,
they're not
yeah,
interested, or you've missed something, so
yeah,
there has to be some way
yeah,
to contact these outlying or ordinary
yeah,
that are not seen and ask, are they interested? Because they can
yeah,
quite say, no, I'm quite happy by myself. You know, I live semi-solitary life. I'm okay. I don't
yeah,
need,
yeah, yeah,
but to let
yeah,
them know it's there.
yeah,
It's there if they need it.
yeah, yeah, yes, yes, yeah. In other words, it's part of the culture. People know it's
Absolutely,
there.
absolutely.
It's there.
But develop a culture takes,
Yes,
a number of things, doesn't it?
it does. It does. It
A number
does.
of things.
It does.
And I think
Yeah.
people got to be the same mind, got to really appreciate
Mm.
why we develop a culture.
Mm.
I remember many, many years, I mean, a long time ago when I was younger, in the UK, they used to have this, I don't think it's still Help the Aged.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
Help the
yeah,
Aged?
yeah, yeah.
And you volunteer and you visit old people in your
Mm.
district
Mm.
because
Mm.
they were isolated. I did
Mm.
that for a while.
Mm.
But it was organized,
Mm.
but they realized this was many years ago that these old people were isolated and they
Mm.
probably never saw anybody, you know
Mm.
how. So just going once a week for a chat
Mm. Mm.
helped them. But for us, it's more than that.
Mm.
It's more than that, isn't it?
Mm. Mm.
Because I think it's an integral part of our practice. It shouldn't be, it shouldn't be a huge step. I have to say, it shouldn't be a huge step.
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing, sorry, is
Yeah.
that how many people are available? That's something else that you
Yeah.
work out
Yeah.
because
Yeah. Yeah.
you've got an aging order.
Yeah.
How's
Yeah.
it going to work? And
Yeah.
it's affected lots of countries in the world.
Yeah.
You've got
Yeah.
an aging
Yeah.
population,
Yeah. Yeah.
and there's not the people available.
Yeah.
But, there's lots of
So
questions, but
there are, yeah, and that's why I think local is best, because these questions are best answered locally.
But absolutely, I think is absolutely right.
Yeah.
Absolutely right.
Mm.
But it takes a lot more work, and I say
Yeah.
you have to enlist not the support,
Yeah.
the chairs or
Yeah.
have the same vision. They understand what
Yeah.
what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yes, I agree with you, and I do have good connections with the European Chairs Assembly, at least for Europe. Well, I think, I mean, we could talk for ages, but we want to keep this relatively short so people can listen to it. So should we close there, Paramashanti, for
Yeah.
now?
No, if you're happy, then to ask me.
Yeah. Yeah.
The last thing, just
Yeah. Go on.
bit of inspiration. I was reading again about Bante's 8 main teachers,
Yeah.
and Jamyang Kensei, which is probably the strongest contact with, someone can say, when he was 10 years old, 10 years old, and his teacher was ill for 3 years. He nursed and looked after 3 years till he died. He was 10 years old. So there's something about, we have, I don't know if we've quite developed that sort of appreciate contact. You think a 10-year-old child looking after a teacher for 3 years, and it was, and no complaints. So I think it's very inspirational.
Thank you for that. That's a really good note to end on. So, Paramashanti, it's been a delight as always. So, and I hope the audience who listen to this will be stimulated to, well, like you were saying, to act. And one way to act is to contact myself, and we can start talking about local care networks, or how they could look like, what they could look like in people's local centres.
Absolutely,
I think it's really exciting.
It is.
There won't be one size won't fit all, but there are those three essentials which are emerging.
No, absolutely. No, I think I must say, I think you've got it absolutely right. It's a big lot. When we start a new project, there's a lot of work. But reflect on what you've told me. I think you've got it right. Local initiative.
Thank you.
You work out how you do it, and list people. So I think for Tree Rat in particular, I think this sort of project at this time is again very valuable.
Thank you.
It's a Dharma in action.
Yeah, it is the Dharma in action. Yeah.
I think there needs a bit more.
Yeah.
A bit more action.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Well, we'll keep in touch. Thank you,
Paramashanti. Thank you very much. Yeah, great talking.
Things go well.
Thank you.
Things go well. We'll be in touch.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye for now.
Bye.